knowing that people have access directly from town to be able to enjoy the seasons is really amazing.
I'm just proud of the trail. I'm just proud of the fact that it's here.
I feel very grateful and very proud. It's just a feeling of knowing that people did a lot of work for that to come to fruition. Yeah, there's a feeling of knowing that people genuinely care about this trail.
People have been involved, and the students have been involved. Not only held runs there, but they've built benches, they've done things to complement the trail.
I think after enjoying the trail, and I do enjoy it, you're relaxed. If you had any stress, it's gone. I know your blood pressure is usually better because you enjoyed yourself, looking at the scenery and just enjoying what you've got around you. If you say hello to people, it's a friendly environment, so that tends to give you better peace of mind. And I think that's what it's all about. You come out with a better peace of mind after enjoying the trail.
Having friends who use that almost on a daily basis is, for more than just exercise, for healing purposes, it's amazing.
I met a wonderful group of people from Stratford, and I actually joined their hiking group for the morning. They were so thrilled and surprised by how lovely our trail was. So that was interesting for me to lead them and to get to know them.
It's a year-round area, which is close to home. It's a nice, enjoyable walk or run. It depends what you're doing. Groups work together for the benefit of a common goal, is to have a good recreational area.
The committee was ready to go, the community was ready for it, the funding came in. The biggest surprise for me, and I think for others, was how much the trail was used by local people and eventually by other groups who come here now as a destination hiking location. And also by people who I never thought would get out and hike or walk. And so it gets used by a lot of different age groups and sectors, and so it's just great. That was the biggest surprise.
Every age can use it, and there's no fee and there's no charge, and all you have to do is get your running shoes and get off the couch. It's for all ages, it's for all incomes. All you need to walk on the trail is a good pair of running shoes and the commitment to get out and get going. It's also 4 seasons. Spring is fabulous with the flowers as they come through, and eventually all the trilliums. Fall.
The vegetation, it does change as the season goes, and I said we're lucky to be in Ontario, whereas the fall, especially September, is a nice time. Leaves might start to change then, and you see a different aspect. And it's just the life cycle again in effect, and it's nice to see. And people use it on a daily basis. In the wintertime, we have cross-country skiers use it. The South Bayfield has snowshoe rentals or usage available, so it's there for the wintertime use too.
You see people out here with really good cameras taking close-ups of flowers and things along the riverbank.
It's an amazing feeling to know that is there for them.
The success of the trails, because it was something that the public was involved with. It was their trail. It was the community's.
And what a joy to see the community support it and love it so and use it.
You're out there at any time you want to be on it and enjoy it, you can. In any amount you want. You want to go a little bit, you want to go a long way, then you have all those choices.
It's been a wonderful experience as far as I'm concerned, and I hope it carries on. Thank you.
accessibility and availability to all is one of the most exciting things that the trail offers to me.
The trail from the get-go was designed to be accessible. That created some challenges, but certainly any of the bridge, the main Sterling Bridge, was designed to make sure that it was accessible, plus the access, the ramps on both sides. The trail itself, the stone dust design was trying to keep the costs down but still make it accessible.
Everybody can use a trail. Everybody from kids and strollers to now we have seniors who would have some disabilities and some issues with walking can ride the trailmobile.
I know some people are shut in and they can't get out and they can't walk. So this is a good way for them to get out and see nature.
A trailmobile, Gord Strang, a board member at the time the trail was being developed, was just very much behind the project, and unfortunately he passed away. In his memory, the family donated funds to purchase the trailmobile, and it continues now as a legacy to him, and it has just made the trail so accessible to many people who would not otherwise be able to access the trail. So that's just a great additional asset for the community.
On the front of the trailmobile is a quote from Gord, which he used to always say, "Gotta get out more."
I think that's unique. I have never seen another one yet anywhere that I've been.
I am just totally thrilled every time I see it go by my house. For those who wouldn't be able to enjoy the beautiful trail, it has made it possible for them to see it in all the seasons. After that time, in 2006, Kristen and I had to make some decisions regarding how we were going to use some money that we wanted to donate to the trail in his memory. So the concept of the trailmobile really came about between mainly Tom Prout and myself and Kristen as to how to use that particular donation that we wanted to do in his memory. So I know that he would have been very thrilled with what we came up with. We were initially going to call it Gord's Buggy, but decided at the very last moment that we should really call it the South Huron Trailmobile.
You have had great volunteers that have offered their services to drive, so that makes a big difference as well. So very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
The Woodland Reflection Shelter is sort of the most recent part of the trail. That was a project of the foundation, and it was tied to the Commemorative Woods program. So as part of the property at Morrison Dam, there's a Commemorative Woods program which has been going on now for several years in cooperation with Haskett Funeral Home, and funds are donated and the funds go to tree planting. The reflection area was a small pavilion type structure, but it has an amazing tree inside it that covers a whole wall. The tree was designed and built by the local students at the South Huron District High School, and the wall is just amazing. People now come just to see that tree on the reflection shelter. It's also a place where people will start and or stop on their hike on the trail as a place to rest and or grab a lunch or that kind of thing. So again, a project that the community got behind and made it happen.
I personally have met a few new people, mainly through some of the other hiking organizations.
Yeah, I've taken my grandchildren, and my son's been, and daughter-in-law have taken their kids.
I always meet people, and some of them I know from Exeter, an area, and you always say hello to strangers because it doesn't take any time to say hello and have a good day. It is somewhat of a social spot. You might in the city, you might not say hello to people when you're on a walk, but in the country, in a relaxed atmosphere, hi, how are you doing today? Enjoying the walk? Yeah. Did you see anything interesting? Hey, sure. You know, because it's we've got the wetlands out there. We've got the water rapids at the far bridge. We've got the lake effect here by the dam. It's a actually scenic area.
Either I use it to do some type of meditation work, or I use it for my own exercise.
It's an exercise thing. You get fresh air, you get some exercise, you get the stairs, give you some aerobic energy. I've seen kids out running here, and actually adults too. I don't run, but I take my dog for a walk, and she enjoys the park, and we see other people with their dogs too. So it's a exercise area for the dog, on leash of course, and the owners.
Some of the individuals who I thought would never walk are on the trail walking on a regular basis, and so I think it's providing a great thing for them, motivator for them to help improve their health.
Well, I think that it's a place of meditation, and you can feel so completely safe, and at the same time have that wonderful natural silence that is sometimes you are needing for introspection type of activities. I personally use it for that, but I also personally use it for exercise on my bike, because I bike it most every day.
Often when I'm walking on the trail, if I don't know somebody, and lots of times I know who they are, but can't necessarily name them, but sometimes I see people I don't think I've seen before. So I'll say, oh, you enjoying the trail or something, and you know, they could be from Guelph or London or St. Mary's or whatever. And the combination of the trail and, of course, the white squirrels. So they're out there looking for white squirrels and on the trail. But they said, you know, we came looking for white squirrels, but boy, this is a really neat trail. We're really glad we came.
It brings people to South Huron, and this current year with the Shunpiker tour using the trail, got a lot of publicity too. And there's people from photography clubs use it, bird watching clubs use it. There's people who train for racing use it. The educational boards use it for cross-country events, and you can go to town to come here, or park here, go to town. And I think because of what we've done here in South Huron, we're seeing other communities trying to do in-town trails too.
They get the use of the trail, whether it's walking, hiking, running, biking, of course, is permitted on the trail, and the trail has become a favorite spot for organizations to host their fundraisers. So without the trail, those fundraisers may not happen, or may be doing it somewhere else. So those are some of the immediate benefits. The other are that people are now moving to Exeter, and one of the reasons is that we have that trail there for them to hike, because hiking and biking and running is a popular thing to do these days by all age groups. So it's there, and people can get out. They also get an opportunity to see the outdoors, fresh air, learn a bit about nature. And the schools, of course, are close by, and some of the teachers take advantage of that by bringing the kids out to the trail, and it's close by. They can walk. They don't need a bus. And then there's that whole sort of economic spin-off in terms of these people who come as a destination to walk or hike on the trail, and then, of course, spend money locally. So, yeah, those are just a few of the benefits.
Hi, I'm on the South Huron Trail, on the MacNaughton-Morrison section of the South Huron Trail, and I've stopped at the outdoor classroom. The Asabo Bayfield does instructing here, as do teachers from the elementary school system, where children are taught to enjoy nature, identify plants, identify birds. This time of year, without the leaves on the tree, the warblers that migrate through here can be identified a little easier. So learning about the plants, learning about the birds, enjoying the river, enjoying the marsh marigolds, the show of yellow along the river, and just generally listening to nature. Encouraging children, to invest in binoculars so that they can do bird watching. It's one of the most popular pastimes and growing rapidly. So lots of things to learn, and so many children get bused to school. It's great when the elementary or high school teachers bring students here to teach them about nature, to listen and watch and enjoy.
The Friends of the Trail go in the springtime and try and cut back some brush.
Well, I think it's great that the anniversary is happening, because I think it is a very, very worthwhile celebration to have the 10th anniversary. And I also want to thank the volunteers, the trail volunteers who help on a regular basis in terms of picking up garbage and making sure people know that dogs are supposed to be on leashes, and just the general use of the trail. So those volunteers deserve a lot of credit to not only keep the trail in good shape, but to keep the, they're spokespeople for the trail, so they make sure people know about it.
There is nature out here, and so that's part of education. And plus, there's the different flowers, and some of the trees along the trail are marked, I believe, with signs saying what kind of tree it is. And I said, you see the fields, the farmers' fields beside the trails, and each year the crops change, so you see how the different crops are going to, and you see that life cycle again of farming aspect. So that's an educational thing too. You see soybeans or wheat or corn, and what they do to the land, and how they prepare it, and how they maintain it, and how they harvest it. And if you're walking the trails at that time, it's education to see the equipment they use. So the education part is there, both in learning about the life on the forest floor, the fauna, the plants, everything, and the fish.
There's often a woodpecker in this area, and but floating down the river, you might see the mallards, you might see the Canada geese, and the early part of May is when the birds migrate. They leave Peely and they come right through here on their way north. And the splash of yellow here and green there and blue there is just quite amazing. It's a real treasure trove, but you do have to watch and listen and explore.
It's 4 seasons, it's available to everybody, and as I say, there's kids in strollers, and there's kids with parents, and there's kids with grandparents, and there's grandparents, and there's now people who aren't able to walk on their own but want to enjoy what the trail has to offer.
You go on the trails, you see the geese, you see the ducks, you might see the odd beaver. Sometimes over the far bridge to the east, you might see some fish in the water and that stuff. But it's just, I said, the trail, the canopy of leaves we have, makes it very inviting and very friendly. So
it's anybody that wants to use it's available, and it's not remote. You don't have to drive somewhere to get it.
Through some of the things we've done with the South Bayfield and the Friends of the Trail, we've seen the different flowers, the May apples, obviously the trims are Ontario flower and in different colors, jack-in-the-pulpits. I like looking at plants and knowing what they are. I remember years ago being at Camp Sylvan, and we had to identify trees by their bark and leaves.
It was daunting, for sure, but But if you didn't have the agreement to walk across the owner's land, then it wouldn't have happened, would it? And certainly not on both sides.
Because the trail today is still on, some of it's on private land, and if those private landowners weren't so cooperative, then the trail would not exist. So absolutely, the landowners and are a key part of that trail.
I suppose there were times when I suppose you could say, gee, are we going to pull this off? But no, I think once we got going and realized the commitments that we were getting and the support we were getting, that no, I think we said we can make this happen. This is going to happen, and it's just a question of what are we going to do to really make it something we're going to be proud of.
I was always sure that it was supposed to be. I didn't have any doubt in my mind. I think there's other committee members will vouch for the fact that sometimes I bugged them a bit in that direction, that it's going to happen. When it's going to happen, I don't know, but and I don't want to see it die there. I'd like to see it continued.
People could sponsor a section of trail, they could sponsor a bench, they could sponsor a bridge.
To me, it was a natural, and as I became involved with the authority, it seemed that well, we actually had programs where we had winter trails, cross-country ski trails, where we got permission from the landowners on an annual basis and groomed ski trails or walking trails from Exeter out to the Morrison. And
the trail's to be a joint venture between the Lions and the ABC Foundation, as it had been as we did the dinners. And so my job was to be the co-chair, along with Gord Strang, and representing, I guess, the Lions side of that, and Gord was representing the foundation side.
It exceeded, I'm sure, my expectation, and in many ways probably Gord's too.
Mm-hmm.
He was so thrilled with the idea of the Sterling Bridge.
Yeah.
And even though he was not well at that time, he spent the entire day from morning until night watching that whole construction, and he was truly impressed with that whole operation and what it was going to mean down the road for other people. So it was a very exciting time for him, and it was also a very lovely time for him that he was able to help cut the ribbons in 2004.
Part of my job, I suppose, like any other chair, is to find some people to be part of the committee that collectively are going to bring the right wisdom and energy. And so I went and talked to Ernie Mitello across the street from us at that time, or now still, and Ernie agreed that he'd like to be part of it. And I knew that Ernie would know a lot of people and have a lot of ideas. And John Stevens was the other Lion with me, and then of course Ted with both hats, because he was on the Lions, in the Lions and on the foundation, and then of course Gord.
I just remember that there were many meetings and many conversations that took place. It really did take a lot of time, but Gord loved it. It was his joy.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was a great thing for him to focus on during that time as well. So, and I was traveling back and forth from various places, but whenever I came home, that was always something that was interesting for him to talk to me about. So he was always very excited about what was coming next.
Having a trail like this so close and so so available, I guess, to everybody was an important thing for me. If we could make it happen, and it did happen. We have had 25 years of dinners for the Sabo ABCA Foundation and Lions Club, and so I suppose the whole thing of the park development started at that time for us. And initially the Lions piece went into developing things like the floral gardens, MacNaughton floral gardens and all that kind of thing. But I guess there was a number of us that always in the back of our mind that we'd really like to see the trail extended, well, the trail that we were so used to here at Morrison Lake. And so, but after the Lions kind of had caught up to the gardens, we started to set aside some money, but none of us had, I certainly didn't have any sort of real vision of what it might be. And then one day Ted Jones walked in my office and recruited me. I guess that would be the word. 'Cause how can you say no to Ted, you know? But anyway, he recruited me to co-chair on behalf of the Lions the development of a trail, and so I agreed. I'm sure I agreed immediately, but Ted may tell you differently, that it took me a couple of times, but I'm really glad I did, because after that, with Tom Prout's brilliant guidance and some of the monies that have been set aside, eventually it developed.
Not too long afterwards, another gentleman came into my office. He happened to be the chairman, and he sat down and talked with me for a while and said, I understand you're going to be our new foundation member. And I looked him in the eye and I didn't see him flinch. So I said, I guess you're right, sir. And I've attempted to serve a role on the foundation ever since, and it has been most rewarding.
It just kept on growing, I guess, and still growing. I mean, it's still happening, so it's good.
It was a lot of fun for me as a child growing up, and then being able to see that come to fruition throughout the years.
To get it formalized, it took a bit of negotiation and partnerships, which I think are very vital to make anything like this happen and work well. And I think we had, I don't know if anything's perfect, but somewhere close to the perfect partnership, in as much as the municipality, the authority, and the Lions Club, and the general public, because the general public just pitched in with enthusiasm, and I could spend the rest of the day telling stories about donations and what have you, and how they drove in the driveway and talked to you, and people that had probably not used the trail in 50 years or gone for a walk, but they still thought that it was a good idea to have and wanted to contribute towards it. This was one of the most rewarding projects I've ever worked on in that respect. And I think that there were many little humps and bumps along the way that had to be worked through, but in my case, I always felt we had the public with us.
The committee that was struck, the community committee that was struck to really lead the charge on the fundraising, and the Lions Club, the Exeter Lions Club, deserve a lot of credit because they were some key partners on that committee. The Conservation Authority provided more of the administrative and construction end of the project, but the funding was, the community committee just, they really did it all, and the community was prepared to support it. And so, although not easy, the funding was there, and we did obtain some grants from various sources, but without that major community support, the project would not have happened.
And the contribution of that bridge, of Sterling Bridge,
Yes.
was such a huge,
Yes.
huge deal. Like everybody, well, my father mostly was just absolutely through the roof. It was pretty neat to see.
The idea of this trail from Morrison to Exeter had been talked about even before I came to the Conservation Authority in 1981, and Ted Jones would certainly be one of the people who had talked about it. And we had at that time agreements with some landowners for use of the trail for skiing only, cross-country skiing only. And a local community committee was struck, and away it went, and it just happened. And so it was, timing was important. Timing, and timing were the key three things there in terms of when it happened.
It's a community project, and to see people, take advantage of in a way that supports everybody who uses it is really really neat. It's really wonderful.
The Lions Club really was remarkable in helping kickstart this, I guess, and helping to do with the foundation to maintain it. Without that group, or a group, sort of taking charge and getting something done, it probably would never happen. So all the service clubs who've helped out and still do, even if it's minor, it's still we're maintaining something we've got and we're promoting it. Because a lot of things could go into disrepair, and that's not happening, because there is a sense of pride in the groups that help out, and it shows on the trail.
How far can you go? How good can you make it with the funds you have? And to what extent can you get more funding in order to do better? An example was the bridge, which cost a lot of money to put that bridge in the middle. And as for those of you, as you know, that have walked the trail, the bridge gives a lot of options because it allows people to go part way and on a very flat part, and then extend that as you wish. So you have options of going 2K or 5K or whatever, and so on. Without the funding, for instance, we wouldn't have done the bridge. Because we were able to secure the funding from all, from corporate sponsors and from a whole lot of donations that people made, things like the bridge were developed. Both sides of the trail. I mean, at one point we thought we may only be able to really come up with one side. Can we get enough support from the community to develop both sides so we can have a loop as we do on the other? Well, that happened as well. But again, the most daunting thing of all is to get the landowner agreements, because without that, we would not have been able to have proceeded as we did. I think people overall have reacted very well to the trail, and most people, one way or other, or through some contact, have had something to do with the trail over the 10 years.
The dinner, which is still going on, was a huge surprise, because it was thought that it would only be for a couple of years, and here we are, how many years later, still being able to raise good money for the trail from that dinner. In the spring, June of 2002, I was asked to join Gord and Kate Monk and Tom Prout. I was asked to join them in mapping out what eventually became the trail. And it was a very kind of wet, warm morning, and the grasses were very tall, and my boots seemed to like to sink into the mud. But it was quite an experience trying to figure out where that trail should actually go. So we did a lot of climbing up and a lot of sliding down. But it was interesting to think that it actually did evolve.
Really, the wisdom and the leadership of Tom Prout was really fundamental. It was his guidance and skill, I think, that really allowed the thing to go forward. So Kate Monk eventually, as she organized the actual doing of the work. So Eric Goodfellow then came along as part of it too, because of his experience in landscaping and development.
Construction of the trail, the Conservation Authority fortunately had experience in that, and so they were able to get out there and lay out the best place for the trail to start with. And then working with landowners, some of the landowners didn't want the trail in certain locations, so the trail location would be modified and then agreed upon by the landowners. Once that was done, then the trail itself, construction would take place. Minimizing the removal of trees was a key priority, but some trees did have to go. And then, of course, getting the right slope for up hills and down hills and erosion. So a few major structures were required to contain the trail without having it erode into the river, where there was little land beyond the bank of the river to put the trail. And so it was involved a bit of engineering, but staff at the Conservation Authority had experience, and they were gung-ho and building boardwalks. They had experience in doing that. So it's a lot of work, but with the experience of the Conservation Authority and the staff, it all came together quite nicely. Kate Monk was a key person who made sure that the trail construction happened, and it happened in an orderly fashion and a timely fashion. Certainly Alex Scott helped out with some of the design where engineering was required. Ted Jones certainly helped out in many ways as well.
So many people get to enjoy nature now, and they have the lookouts there, the benches, good viewing sites, good resting areas, and it's well maintained. So I think everybody should enjoy it. a lot of good times along the river.
I think the trail itself, you'd have to talk to someone older than me, because I think taking a walk along by the river was something that people had done long before the trail was formalized. I personally started using this as a playground, I guess, when I was about 12 years old, and joined by many of my friends, and I think we developed an appreciation for nature and wildlife and all that sort of thing from this rather humble start.
I've always enjoyed hiking and walking and being outdoors, and we've done that really for forever. And I used to walk the trail on the east side of the Morrison, the original one, all the time.
Always good recollections of the farm and that area. And as kids along there, we used to toboggan down the Dow's Hill and the curling club. And the first place I ever skied with Fred Simmons. We used to be a former member of the Friends of the South Huron Trail.
That section of the river valley I did not use. I used the section further east as a child. But in talking to those from Exeter who, as kids would get out and fish and play in the water and do that kind of thing. So even though it was owned by private individuals, there was some use of it by locals for mostly youth to get away from their parents, maybe, I'm not sure, but to enjoy some outdoors in nature.
When I was a youngster, my grandfather and my uncle used to own the now Raisenberg Hodgett farm, and when we were young, we always had to work at the farm. So when you worked at the farm, you got sweaty sometimes, and we'd often go down to the river and go for a swim. So there was a couple of little pools down there. It was deep enough for us as kids to go swimming, and we were always back in the bush there looking for salamanders and newts and just enjoying the vegetation. The north side, not so much, because there was trees up there, and it was closer to the civilization because we were farming right on that side, where the golf course side was slower. And then that piece of property where the Derbyshires are, now it used to be owned by my cousin Bob Frayne on that side of the river, and he sold it to Dr. Reed. So there's always like sort of an unofficial path on that side. And then obviously once the association came through and talked to new landowners, they made agreements to have it on both sides of the roads, so both sides of the river. It's always a fun spot. I remember out there as a teenager cultivating and that stuff, and where the spring wells are. There's a spring there, obviously, that's why the spring wells. And you get thirsty, you go down there and take a drink right out of the pond in the spring, and it was nice, cool water. But one time I must have did something wrong, but I got into poison ivy, so I had poison ivy from going down there. But I have fond memories of the area and the farm. I know it's always had a great potential for maple syrup because there's a lot of maple trees there, and you could do a gravity float. So my uncle and my grandparents, they heated their house with wood, and the bush was a renewable source of energy for them. They cut down the trees that had to be cut down, and we cut and split them, and then take it into town to the farmhouse, and not the farmhouse, the townhouse, and use the wood there to heat the place. And whenever there was a power outage, my parents used to take my sister and I down to my grandparents because always had a source of heat. The rainbow trout were in there, and then I know there was some brook trout too. But it's always nice to watch the fish, right? And then I know even in the late '70s, there was salmon starting to come up the river too. They'd get over the Exeter Dam and get up to. You couldn't get to the Morrison over it, right? But they'd go along the river, and it was always nice to watch them and enjoy the fish and their life cycle. I said the bush was an interesting area to play in. Sort of live in and enjoy. But see it grow and walk the trail. I'm involved with the curling clubs, and sometimes I just park by the new reflection center and walk into town, go to the curling club, come back, and sometimes do both sides of the river. But you see people, familiar faces, you see some new faces, and like I said before, it's well maintained and not a lot of garbage, and that's a good thing because people appreciate nature. And the friends go along, and the staff of the Solid Bay Field go along and make sure it is clean. So it's a picturesque view, not too much debris, and so everybody can enjoy it. They've done a really good job.
Thanks to the community. It includes all of those who sat on the committees, helped fundraise, and those who donated the money, those who continued to use the trail. It's just an amazing asset for this community. And so I would say thank you.
It goes back to it being their trail, a community trail, not just something that's owned by somebody far away and remote, but it's a personal sort of thing.
We invited people from the community to share their AuSable River Valley story along the trail, even before there was a trail. This story comes from Audrey Bentley. Because I was a child growing up in the late 1920s and early 1930s, I was asked to write something about my memories of our river, the AuSable River. Our street had children in almost all the homes, and we thought of ourselves as the Ann Street kids. Our river was not the stretch from MacNaughton Park along the trail. Our river was on the west side of the highway. On a hot summer afternoon, we would walk along the railway track that ran behind our homes to the railway bridge and slide down the embankment on the east side and walk a short distance east to our swimming hole. Often there were children from the northern part of town there also. This pool was not large, and so by the time we arrived, it was really crowded, but we didn't mind. We stayed all afternoon and often got really sunburned. It was great fun, and we trudged home just in time for supper. The boys' swimming hole was located behind the farm where the Dows now live, and along the path to a wide area in the river, and was much deeper than ours. We didn't go there much, but I remember our mother and some other mothers once took us there on a picnic. Since almost nobody had cars, we didn't get to the lake at all, except for the Sunday school picnic once a year. So our river was a magic place. I still prefer a river to a large body of water like the lake. Thanks to some wonderful, dedicated people, we do have our river trail for everyone to experience the seasons as they come and go along the river. Thanks for sharing, Audrey.
I think there's some things that we could do on the trail. I know Tom and I have had this conversation, and certainly getting across Morrison Dam at times is a challenge.
One of the next steps for the trail is to get a pedestrian crossing here at the Morrison line at the dam, either side of the road, just so people when they're crossing don't have to walk on the bridge. It's narrow, traffic is faster than it should be. And I'd be getting the community together to see where the community thinks the bridge should go, either on the east side or the west side of the Morrison line. And I think that would be a valuable link, which also not only would make it safer, but even more accessible to people in terms of the trail. Looking forward, I think there's an opportunity here just to make it even better by including the pedestrian bridge here at Morrison, and also to extend the trail and to keep fundraising, because the trail does require maintenance.
I've always had in the back of my mind that somehow we could go west through Elliott Park and on and join up eventually into the AuSable conservation land that's out in Hay Swamp. I don't know whether that's going to happen and that I'm going to see that happen, but I guess it wouldn't have to be a trail that's as nice as ours here. It wouldn't have to be developed to that same extent. But it would be nice to have that at least developed to the point where it would be available.
And the next phase of the trail, which is maybe out there a little further, but that is to extend the trail from Elliott Park in Exeter to Hay Swamp. And I think that's doable. I think it would be a different type of trail, maybe more appealing to a different group or of society, where you might have less accessibility in terms of the bridges and the stone dust trail. But certainly there are folks who like to walk on a trail that isn't quite as groomed and neat and tidy. So I think there's an opportunity there, which really will only take, again, a community committee to get together to spearhead it. But I think the time is soon where that will happen.
If we could go west, that would be great, but maybe somebody else have to pick up that challenge. I don't know. We'll see.
There are enthusiastic people and that I'm sure can make it and will make it happen.